They weighed everything. Everything was dealing with mathematics and sciences. So we move on. We can see here at the Great Temple of Amun and Karnak, going all the way back in its foundation from the 12th dynastic period, all the way through the New Kingdom, all the way up to the present, where you can still go, as I did and took this picture. You can see Roman numerals before the Romans. Here you can see the area of a circle. How many of you knew that they were involved in the area of mathematics? How many of you knew that? The area of a circle. Look at the Orion mathematical papyrus here. The area of the circle. The area of a square. Orion mathematical papyrus. You can probably get it right here in the bookstore. Can you get that here, brother? Here you can see the area of a triangle. They're figuring out the area of triangles here in Kemet. And look at the hieratic writing here. This is not even this. See, they had 3 different types of writing. We getting to that, sister. We getting to that. We move on. And then after they figured out the area of the triangles, they built triangles. Right there, and then they tell us Pythagoras was the father of the law of triangulation, which they called and named it after him, Pythagorean theorem. And we got triangles sitting right there, the biggest triangle you ever saw. They can't see it. We move on, and here you can see the volume of pyramids, the volume of truncated pyramids. Diop in Civilization and Barbarism showed that the Mesopotamians tried to come up with a formula for the volume of a truncated pyramid. It was wrong. And they always telling us how advanced the Mesopotamian mathematics was. They never show you a single example of it. Just tell you that. We move on. Here you can see, wait a minute. Let's get the focus here. Here they are squaring numbers. Squaring numbers. Now what's the basis for Pythagoras theorem? Isn't it square roots? Isn't it squaring numbers? Here's the basis of it, the squaring of numbers. This is the Berlin papyrus here. The Moscow papyrus, rather. So don't say Brother Mathu is making this stuff up. That Brother Mathu can't subject his passion to reason. As you can see, Pythagoras coming into Kemet, where he studied for 20, he said it himself. He studied for 22 years in Kemet. Then he went and studied 16 years in Mesopotamia and went back to Greece and started a school of mathematics. Then they said he was the father of the theorem. Just like they said Hippocrates was the father of medicine. You saw Imhotep. They made him the god of medicine. And the only first thing you hear of Hippocrates, he's in Egypt studying medicine. So apparently the writers of this article in archaeology who's saying that Egypt and the rise of Greece, who said that we were just being emotional, apparently they didn't see the Orion mathematical papyrus and the sculptures of Imhotep. Move on here. It's the same slide here. So take a look at this thing here. So here you got some sisters on the wall in Kemet. Cornrows. The white folks ain't walking around except for Bo Derek. She copied us for a little while. But you don't see them walking around with cornrows. This is an African hairstyle. Now here you can see the sisters with their melanin in their skin. Now when the National Geographic and the Epigraphic Society gets through with them, this is what the sisters look like. So they're saying that we're trying to latch on to somebody else's history. Am I trying to latch on to someone else's history, or are they trying to latch on to my history? It's the question. We move on. Here you can see the sisters here in Kemet. Right, this is in Kemet, in the hotel in Aswan. The sisters standing here, you can't tell them apart. And this is what happened to the sister here in National Geographic. So even the Arabs in Kemet know the sister was black. They put her in the lobby of the hotel. But we're not being objective here. They saw this. Ramesses and Tutankhamun and the various pharaohs had these headrests. They said, headrests? That can't be. Oh, it was just a symbolic thing then. They just dismissed it. Then you go right to the interior of Africa and you see the brother laying up here with the headrest. Then you go back to the headrest here and you see, well, it took this brother 2 years to grow this hairstyle. He wasn't going to get his hairstyle up. So he made that headrest. So Diop showed the cultural unity of black Africa. You can get that book here, I know. The cultural unity of black Africa. Where Ramesses is staring face to face with the ancestral land. So was Cleopatra black? Now, Cleopatra is a fairly insignificant queen in my opinion, and it's really a queen that I'm not really interested in claiming for her blackness. Sleeping around with those varmints like she was. But maybe there was some strategy behind it, I don't know. But since they want to raise the question, about whether or not she was black, she was perceived as being black until the last 200 years when the Aryan model of history came on the scene. Even in medieval Europe, Shakespeare and all the rest of the writers, Volpone, Ben Jonson, they considered this woman to be black. She was considered to be black because the tradition of the ancient Egyptians was black even in medieval Europe. So you go right to medieval Europe, you see Cleopatra here shown as being black. So apparently when he wrote this article, he didn't do the research that I was doing. He's from Harvard, Yale, Princeton. I'm from South Central. I can find stuff that he can't find. Then he couldn't find Shakespeare when Shakespeare wrote in his Antony and Cleopatra, I am with Phoebus, amorous, Pensius, black. I am darkened by the sun's touches. Then he writes, Cleopatra's description of herself is, of course, not to be taken too literally. Since he raised the question, I wasn't really going after her because there's so many other great queens like Amosi Nefertari, and Nefertari, the queen of Ramesses II, and Queen Hatshepsut, and Queen T. Oh, you can go on down the line. There's plenty of queens for us to claim to be African. Besides the last one, Cleopatra the 7th, out of 7 of them. We move on. So here you can see the sister here. Dark, Phoebus, amorous, Pensius, black, skin touched by the sun's rays. But National Geographic can't see it that way. This is what happened to the sister. National Geographic. So these are the authorities, the so-called authorities on our history. They're the ones, the curators in New York, and the Cairo Museum, and the Metropolitan Museum of this, and the Metropolitan Museum of that, who teach all of this misinformation to our children and to ourselves. We move on, we can see here, then Bernal comes out with the book, Afro-Asiatic Roots of Classical Civilization, and all hell breaks loose. But here we've been studying this stuff for years, long before we even knew who this guy was. They just ignore black scholars, ignore black architects, ignore anything that has to do with black people until white folks start talking about it. Then all of a sudden it becomes a valuable topic for discussion. Went to UC Riverside, they had a whole 2 panels. White folks on 2 panels debating about Bernal. One group represented the Aryan model of history. The other group represented the ancient model that said the Egyptians were black. All of them were white. It was an Asian girl that got me down there who saw one of my lectures at Brentwood High School. It was before all white people. It was 800 white people there. And they went back and forth, arguing back and forth about whether or not the Egyptians were black. Then after that, I did a lecture, and everybody shut up. They were coming over to me, apologizing. And the Asians ran over. There was a bunch of Asians in there. It was right after the uprising, to shut them down. You know, they came over, and they said, brother, I've never seen anything like this. They were just all excited. They almost bowled me over. Asians had never seen anything like this before. So this is the Aryan model of history. Howard Carter, James Henry Breasted, all these cats got together and decided that they're going to write the black man out of history. The last 200 years we have been written out of the history books. These are the ones who have written the books, who have written the foundation of the racist material that is throughout the educational system here, throughout the United States and Europe, all over, including in Africa, using the same textbooks from these people who are supposed to be scholars. So here I am from South Central. I want you to see the information. We're just getting warm here. I want you to see this here. Okay, here is George Rawlinson on his book on Egypt, History of Egypt. He writes about Amosi Nefertari. Her name, they call her, sometimes she's called Amasis, but Amosi is more appropriate, so I'll be calling her Amosi Nefertari. Nefertari Amosi, or the beautiful, companion of Amosi, King Amosi, okay, and who is represented on the monuments with pleasing features, but a complexion of ebon blackness. It is certainly wrong to call her a negress.